Hi my lovelies, back with another little tutorial, and I'm really excited about this one. I think I've come up with something new, and how it transpired was, this is an ephemera journal, and I can't show you too much because the person hasn't got it yet, but when she sent it, when she's received it, I'll post the video that I take of it so that I can show you guys a flip through, because it's a great little prezi for the junk journaling friend who is really good at junk journals anyway, that you want to share some ephemera with. So this guy here, how it started was, I wanted to put this in, but I wanted her to be able to use it, so I didn't want it to be permanent, but it's beautiful and I didn't want it just tucked away in a pocket. I wanted to see most of it. And I thought, well, I could just do four corners like that, but then what if she uses it and wants to put something else in it? It's kind of going to have to fit that size again. What if it's something smaller? So I made these little points here so that, and I mean, you could go all the way up, so that no matter what the size is, you can pop something in there. And then I thought, well, if I put other things over top, you're only going to see the top layer. How could I do it so that you could see everything that's stacked up? So I came up with this idea, and you might have seen it. I don't know. I think it's new because I've never seen it, and I was pretty happy with that. So I thought I'd share it. So here you go. I have got a prettier one in there with prettier papers, but I don't want to show that because I know she watches these. I just made a whole lot of removable little tabs for this journal so that she can organise it how she wants. But see how now you can see, and if they were pictures or if they were scrapbooking paper or patterned paper or hand-dyed paper, you'd be able to see what you had in there. It just stays in place too. They don't flop down. So what I did was I put those little things on the inside. Can you see that? So that when you've stacked them all in, you can just pop them up there and they sit there. And obviously this is a very plain, this isn't a junk journal, this is an ephemera folder. So the one that I'm going to show you how to make, I probably will put more detail on it because it's going into a different journal. But I most of you will probably see this and think, oh, that's quite cool. I have seen that before. I haven't seen that before. I can go now. And that's fine. You probably don't need to see an explanation of how I do it. But the way I do it, the little corners are done a specific way so that they're quite sturdy but not too many folded layers all in one point. So I will show you how to do those, and they're quite firm so they do hold things nice and snug. So if you're a seasoned professional, feel free to switch off if you haven't already and go and make one. And if you would like to stick around and see my little tips and tricks of how to make this easily, stay tuned. Okay, I'll get ready. Okay, so first step, I need the folio folder that I'm going to put the pocket onto. So I'm going to put onto this one, I think, and this is thicker than photocopy paper, and it's fibered paper. I think it might be made out of cotton, or because it's very hard to rip the fibers, so I know it's nice and sturdy. This process will firm it up anyway quite a bit, and if not, I'll just make sure that I put a pocket on this side so that it's a bit more, it holds up a wee bit more. I am going to make the top part out of this. So all you need is to measure about the same width. So I'll fold it first for how big I want my triangles to be. I want it to be able to fit in, but I don't want it to hide too much of what I'm putting in there either. So, and this is a card. It's probably closer to 160 to 200 GSM. you don't need that. I have in the last one made it with this paper, and I've just put this there to show you. That is still thicker than photocopy paper, but it's not card, so you don't need to have card. And then I'm just going to quickly slice through there. And feel free to put me on fast forward if you don't need to see all this. And I'm just going to finger measure, and you'll see why in a second why it doesn't matter if I get it exactly right. So I want to cut about there. The only thing that matters is that the sides are square at 90 degrees, which is why I'm using my cutting mat to line that up. And then I glue that whole thing. If you hear some rustling, that's my cat sitting over there on my beautiful wallpapers. Thank you for that, Needles. Yes, I'm talking to you. Out of all the places you could sit on the bed right now, you decide to sit on my good wallpapers. And because you're going to be cutting through this, so you'll see that in a minute, you do want to have glue pretty much everywhere. So because now we're going to slice from corner to corner. So this in here is going to become an edge on its own, so you really do want to have that glue nicely spread out. You're more than welcome to use PVA, Mod Podge or tacky glue. Okay, so because these overlap, that's why it didn't matter if it was perfect. If you made them bigger, you're going to need to trim that little bit off anyway. Now this could look really cool if you use contrasting patterns as well. I'm going to turn those over so the pattern goes up the right way. My pattern OCD, and I am going to ink those. And when I come back, they're going to be inked, and all you do, in the other one, I actually chopped a little bit off there. You can do that if you want to. I'm just going to leave it this time. You are just going to glue right on the edge there, stick that down, and right on the edge there, and stick that down. So I'll be back in a second. Okay, there we go. There's the first part done. So now I need to make this band, and obviously because it's not close to an A4 journal, it's half that at A5, I am going to need to make a thinner band so that you can still see either side and smaller triangles. And so maybe about that would be good. So I think I might call this a Bellyband Paper Stack, maybe. And you do want this to be able to bend, because remember, you need to fold it and the contents just slightly to tuck it up under there. You don't need much to tuck it up, but I would at least have that much. So this is going to be 1, 2 thicknesses thick, almost 3 for the most part. So I'm just going to trim this so that when I glue it and that folds around, I don't have to worry about that meeting the other edge. Okay, so I am going to cut it slightly so I don't waste my glue. And you do need a little bit that's going to fold around the other side as well, so just keep that in mind when you trim it. So I'm going to trim it about there, and then I'll still have a bit to cut off if I need to. I love using this paper because the words are obviously on lines, so I can use that to line up a reasonably straight line. Okay, so I'm going to glue, that will stick those together, and then that will stick that on there. Okay, and for the video television, I'll fast forward this. Okay, now I just need a little bit there, which you can always pop a pocket on the back like I probably intend to anyway. That is because you want this to be able to fold down quite nicely and not hinder or get in the way of anything else, and it makes it a bit more seamless if you cover that up on the other side as well. So you would get away with chopping it through there. I'm going to chop it up a little bit higher so that I can do corners as well. That just makes it just a little bit easier to tuck up under there. Okay, so I'm going to cut about there. Now the next part, you're either going to love me or hate me, because she's a bit of origami. Very simple origami, but origami nonetheless. So I know most people turn those corners around. I just tend to eyeball it. Apologies, I'm just quickly going to ink this. If you watched my videos, I have a compulsion to ink. You don't have to, by any means. I'm going to ink this side too, because as you're loading your papers in, you do see this side. And because it's not as much of a functional journal, I like to finish everything and make it pretty. Okay, so now you can either use a contrasting paper again, or you can just use this paper. And what you are going to need to do is have some paper that is the same as or slightly smaller width than across here. So this bit that I cut off is going to be perfect. Here comes the origami. This will bring back nightmares from your primary school days. So we've got it pretty good. I'm just going to trim off just a little bit more, because it's better to have it slightly too small than slightly too big. Okay, and then you've got to decide how many little triangles you want. I usually go about 5, 7. That gives you a really good variety. And then you're just going to fold it so that this side and this side are flush neatly. Then you know you've got a nice square. And you're just going to do that a few times until you've got 7, 5, however many you want to put on. So I'll fast forward this while I make them. Okay, so I'm going to go with 5 because it is a smaller journal. Now you could just glue those together, make them smaller. I find it a wee bit too flimsy. I like to have them with a bit of body, so once they're folded, I fold them in half again. Then I unfold them and fold them once this way. Try to have them meet as best you can. And then I push that one in there and open that up and push that one in there. And then you've got a nice crisp triangle. You haven't just got a rectangle that you've folded over the corners that's going to interfere with sliding things in. It's a nice flat back, a nice flat front, and I'll show you where I glue those as well. So I'll do another one slowly and then I'll fast forward the process. So we're just going to fold that in half, then open it up, fold it this way, and then those diagonal lines that we'd already folded are going to be our guides for pushing those in there like that. Okay, so I'll fast forward this now while I make the rest. Okay, so if that was beyond you, and I know watching other people fold things can quite often be quite daunting, I would just do maybe 2 triangles stuck together with some glue rather than any folding. I think it will help to not interfere with things that you're sliding in and out of there, because you'll have a flat front and a flat back. If you have managed to make these, well done. And all I do is you're going to glue there and there, there and there, and in here. So I'll just show you that one and then I will fast forward again. Glue everywhere as per usual. Okay, you just leave that one to dry. I might actually sew these on this time. Means I'll have some decorative stitching on that side as well, which I might actually end up covering up with a cluster or something, but that's alright. Okay, so I'll just fast forward this while I glue it. Okay, so I would still glue, even though I'm going to sew decoratively, I would still glue them slightly, just so that it makes it easier for me when I'm stitching and I know how far apart they need to be. The largest one is probably going to reach the bottom of the piece of paper, so you can do that one as far down as you like. And then I leave about 1 centimetre in between them, between that one and that one, because even if you've got a paper size that's in between, you would usually get away with using this one, and it just means that the paper drops down here slightly further when you've put it in, so that it holds nicely. So yes, I'm doing it. I'm doing it, people. Sorry, bear with me. It just looked too wrong next to the ones next to the band that has been and I know you're barely even going to see this, but I know it. I know it's there. Oh, it's not even a journal for me. Okay. So as little glue as you can possibly put, especially if you're going to sew it. And I'm going to put that really close to the bottom there. And then about 1 centimetre apart. And if you're worried about that sticking there, I would just be a little bit patient and pop that in there for now while it dries. This stuff, as you know, dries pretty quick. It's a lot like Fabri-Tac. It's just the cheaper version. Anyone else have the issue though that when it's running low, it always squeezes a little bit out of the top for you? So I'm just going to fast forward this part now that you've seen how to do it. Okay, just let that dry a little bit. And as you can see, you could probably, and I probably will, because I'm that kind of obsessive, you could put quite a few more in there, but that's going to give you a height difference in paper from there to there. And then the last part is pretty obvious. All you need to do is put a bit of glue on there, and that's her done. She sticks up under there once you've got your papers in, and she's good to go. So I hope that was helpful. She'll be a little bit more decorated than that, I imagine, by the time I film the journal, because it's a little bit plain at the moment, just a little bit of a cluster or something. Potentially on here, just to make it a little bit more interesting. Just make sure that sits nice and flat, and that will dry. I'm also going to make another really cool idea, because I want labels throughout this journal that the person can stick where they want to write certain things. So I will do a tutorial on that one too, because that's another one that I haven't seen done. There we go. So if I try to get maybe a couple of papers here. Here you go. So I just thought I'd better show an example of how I put it in there. So I'll just do 3. So I just line them up at the top, so I've got a pretty good idea of where they're going to fit. And then obviously that one's going to go on the bottom one, but you could also just put it there. Don't go in the wrong way. That one needs to go in the second top, and that one needs to go in the top. Then I just straighten them up how I want them, and then you just, this one might be a little bit wide because this I've got out of the larger one, so my apologies. Yep, that one out. And the first time that you put it under, yes, it does take a little bit, but by the time you've pulled it in and out of there a couple of times, it raises this a little bit and it's a lot easier to tuck up under there. There we go. And it would be a lovely place to put letters, so you would know kind of what letter you were going to pull out and read. So yeah, I hope that is something that you haven't seen before and that it's a new idea and it gets someone a little bit excited. Like I always say, if one of these videos gets one person inspired, I'm happy to do them. So have a great crafting time and I will see you next time. Bye guys.